Okay. Before we start today's session, I will do a recap what all we did yesterday. I think all of you were present apart from Sharif, right? Okay,
Yes,
Vikas.
ma'am. Yesterday I was present, but I joined lately.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start from Vikas. A recap of yesterday's session.
Yesterday, we had definition of rural. After that, we have seen the sampling research. Just a minute.
Okay. Yesterday we covered what is rural society, what is urban, what is urbanization, what is small, big society, right? We covered what is demography, why
Big
demography is
database.
important, how we collect data, right? So all those
Yes.
points we covered yesterday. Now we are moving on to a new block, which is rural development. Yesterday we covered rural. Today we'll cover what is development, what is growth, and actually, IGNOU study material is very good. It is detailed. Everything is written in that. There are a lot many policies which was formulated all over world, India and apart from India also. So lots of about it is written about program and policy. Please go through that. I won't be able to cover all the policies and programs here. We will hit the important point which we have to cover and just go through all the programs and policies, right? So before we move ahead, we talked about what is rural society and all, and why demographic detail is important for development. Now, tell me what is development? I just want to know your perspective. What is development? Before we start, any one of you, anything, doesn't matter whether it is right or wrong.
Hello, I think the development is the process of improvement of social and economic lifestyle.
Okay. Anyone else?
It's improvement in services.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay. So, when we talk about development and growth, what is the difference? Can you mention a few points? Are they same thing or they are different from each other?
Development is the first time it happens, and growth is the continuous process.
Okay. Okay. We are talking about economic growth and economic development, right? We are talking about anyone else? It's very important to understand the difference between the two. What is economic growth? What is economic development? And uh, how why rural development is important, what are the factors affecting it, what are the objectives. So I will cover all those points in detail. First, it's very important to be very clear about what is growth and what is development. Anyone else want to add on? Okay, fine. We'll start with the present. Okay, who raised their hand? Aftab Alam. Aftab, you want to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead. Aftab,
Yes, ma'am.
you want to speak? You raised your hand.
Ma'am, your voice is lagging, ma'am. You are not audible. Yes, ma'am.
Uh, is it with
Yes,
everyone?
ma'am.
My voice is not audible.
No, is it okay? It is okay, madam.
It's
Okay.
Ma'am,
yes
but
for me
you
as
are
well.
not. But I am having issue, ma'am.
Okay, maybe you must be having connectivity issue. That's why. Otherwise, it's fine with others. Please check that you do have problem with your device or connection.
Yes, ma'am. I will try to rejoin the meeting, ma'am.
Okay, fine, fine, after fine.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll begin with the presentation. Just give me a minute, huh? What happened? Something. Okay, now this is block 2 of your MRD 101, and in this we'll cover what is development, what is rural development concept and strategies, rural development experiences, and Asian perspective, what all development took place in developing nation, in Asian developing countries, especially as is mentioned about Bangladesh, Mexico, and Sri Lanka. Please go through all the programs and policies which they have taken for rural development and rural development in India. So all these topics are there in your block 2 of MRD 101. Okay. Now, as we were talking about what is development and what is growth, economic development and what is economic growth, and the difference between the two, it's very important to understand because many a times we get confused. Actually, traditionally, economic growth and economic development they used to treat the same. Yeah, yes, same, hai, right? All of you are comfortable with English or Hindi? Please do let me know.
English, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Because yesterday I saw some message they talked about like, but some of them are don't they are from Hindi medium also, so that's why I tried to cover in both the languages. So if anyone has any problem,
Fine
please
for
do let me know in between. Okay. What is economic? Can you see the slide? Can you all see the slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Economic development is first we'll cover. Sorry, just a minute, huh? First, we'll look at what is economic growth. Earlier, as I said, we the economics used to treat same economic growth and economic development were the same, right? But now, with time, it was a traditional method of looking at economic development. It was same as economy, it was termed same as economic growth, but with in due course of time things have changed, our perspectives have changed. So economic development, and there is a difference between economic growth and economic development. Economic growth is an increase in the value of goods and services produced in a economy in a given period of time. Like we generally count it in a year. So we see growth in according to that ki how much growth has taken place year wise. Like last year the GDP rate was this year the GDP rate is this. So that is, we compare year on the yearly basis, right? It refers into the increment in the amount of goods and services produced by an economy. It refers to an increase over time in a country's real output of goods and services. Real output means when we deduct depreciation when from the income part, right? Otherwise, if we calculate both, then it won't be real income. Real income is when we deduct depreciation cost of services and goods produced, that is real income. So that we calculate accordingly. And economic growth is that it refers to increase in that when the goods and services produced in the economy increases, we say it is economic growth is in taking in moving in upward direction. When the goods and services produced decreases, we say that it is going in a downward direction. It is single dimensional in nature as it only focuses on income of the people. It doesn't consider other things. Economic growth is the precursor and prerequisite for economic development. Of course, if good income will be there, then development will take place. We'll see what development is. That's someone yesterday said to cover in points. That why I made it in a point wise form, right? So that you don't have problem if you are asked to differentiate in exam also, you can write it in point wise. It is also considered as a traditional measure of development which indicate the quantitative rise in the economy. It only looks at the quantitative aspects. What goods and services produced in the economy, it looks on that aspect, economic growth. It is a narrow concept, we can say, because as compared to economic development, it is for short term. As I said, we calculate in a yearly basis. It is a material physical concept. It doesn't include the welfare of the society. When we talk about development, it consider the welfare of the people. Economic growth is measured in certain time frame period, right? Now we move on to economic development, what it actually implies. It is economic growth plus welfare of the people, quality of life, improvement in the quality of life of the people. Suppose income is income has rise from like GDP increased is increasing every year, but the wealth is concentrated in hands of few. कुछ लोगों के पास ही वेल्थ है, बाकी लोग के पास there is unequal distribution, या यू कैन कह सकते हैं लाइक लोगों को फैसिलिटीज प्रोवाइड नहीं हो रही है, द हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज और एजुकेशन फैसिलिटी, हाउसिंग, then will you call it economic development? Anyone? Can we call it development? सपोज लाइक tobacco इंडस्ट्री में चाइल्ड लेबर्स आर वर्किंग इन tobacco इंडस्ट्री, राइट? इनकम तो बढ़ रहा है, इनकम इज राइजिंग because of the revenue they are getting from that, but it is child laborers are working there. It is very harmful for them. They are inhaling all the tobacco ka smokes and all, whatever the way they process and all. It is not only that, it is harming society as a whole. Can you call it a development?
No, madam.
right? We can't call it development. Like suppose the produce has increased, like agriculture produce, गेहूं लास्ट ईयर से इस ईयर बहुत ज्यादा प्रोड्यूस हुआ है, बट स्टिल बहुत इट इज नॉट रीचिंग आउट टू द मासेस, लोगों को खाना नहीं मिल रहा है. विल वी कॉल इट अ डेवलपमेंट, इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट? नो, will not. So, economic growth in itself is not sufficient. We can't call it economic development, and growth plus economic development is equal to development, we can call. It implies growth with justice. Like कुछ लोगों के पहले क्या होता था in earlier in 50s or 60s, I mean like people used to hold a large part of land, लेते थे, laborers काम करते थे, and you don't used to get money, they were not paid wages, उनको थोड़ा अन्न दिया नहीं दिया, and it was like exploitation was there. Though growth was there, but exploitation was there. So we don't call it a development, and that's why it is very important. Growth with justice, we call economic development when call that their development is taking place in the economy only when there is growth with justice. It means an improvement in the quality of life through better health, education, housing, and overall material and social welfare. The basic elements of development are the following, that is removal of inequality and poverty. अगर बहुत लोग पुअर हैं और कुछ लोगों के हाथ में ही मनी है, we don't call it development, that it is a developed economy. There has to be an equal distribution of money between people. इंक्रीज इन मटेरियल वेलफेयर ऑफ द पीपल, लाइक लोगों को सुविधाएं मिलनी चाहिए, हेल्थ, एजुकेशन, हाउसिंग, हॉस्पिटल. अगर दोज फैसिलिटीज आर नॉट अवेलेबल एंड सिर्फ द goods and services produced is increasing in the economy, we don't call it a development. Increase in social well-being, education, health, housing, etc., and equitable distribution of gains of development among different groups of people in a region or country. It has to be equally distributed. I said कि ये नहीं कि किसी को बहुत ज़्यादा एंड किसी को बहुत कम मिल रहा है. There has to be equal in the sense the part they contributed. We can't say that एक जो मालिक है उसको भी उतना ही आएगा and the laborer working they'll get the same, but yes, of course the part what they contribute उस हिसाब से that equality has to be there. An enhancement in technology and the capacity to produce a wider range of goods and services in the economy, leading to a better quality of life. So there has to be enhancement in goods and services produced in the country, building institutional structure which permit participation in decision making at all levels, equalization of opportunity for development and removal of disparities. For a long time it was assumed that development depends primarily on economic, sorry, one word is missing, economic growth. So we have to like only government, like nowadays Panchayati Raj is there, on block levels work is being done, elections होते हैं, लोग उन आपस में चुनते हैं, and they participate in policy formulation, which is very important. सिर्फ अगर गवर्नमेंट की ओर से जो इलेक्शन होते हैं 5 years पे सिर्फ वहीं से प्लानिंग होगी एंड दे विल ओनली द टेक डिसीजन, देन दे विल नॉट नो कि ग्राउंड रियलिटीज क्या है. So to work on ground level, it is very important institutional structures, NGOs and all are working in the process of development. There are self help groups are there, जो लोग एक तरह के लोग हैं, they are called self help SHGs. Those who are work, like suppose the parents of disabled children, like those who are disabled, so they work together. What are their requirements, they talk about their requirements on their level, and it reaches out to the government. They frame policies, and also it's very important to make institutional structure which permits participation in decision making at all levels. It includes processes and policies by which a country improves the social, economic, and political well being of its people. It is multidimensional in nature as it focuses on both income and improvement of living standards of people. Economic development comes after economic growth. Is a positive impact of economic growth. Of course, if there will be economic growth, then only development will take place. If there will be no income, no development will take place. We can't invest in other things. We can't live a good life. We can't have hospitals. We can't have schools until unless there will be economic growth. So it is a positive impact of economic growth. Now we talk about what are the indicators of economic development. Traditionally, as I said, was taken as a single most economic growth. It is not the only indicator of development. Like we used to take economic growth as only indicator of development. The use of gross national GNP or, as the indicator of development has been criticized by several economics and the planners and all. One of the chief arguments against its use is the contention that GNP as an average level of income per capita ignores the inequality in the distribution of national income. Like कोई बहुत poor है, कोई बहुत अमीर है, किसी there you can see लोग people are starving and कुछ लोगों के पास बहुत पैसा है. So that is ignored there. It ignores the availability and utilization of goods and services and has nothing to say on availability or otherwise of a whole range of basic needs such as health, education, water, shelter, etc. They don't talk about these things. It just they talk about the goods and services, gross products produced in the economy. They don't talk about other things which is required for the society as a whole, whether the whole society is getting their share or not, उनकी सुख सुविधाओं की ध्यान हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है. So it is, that's why the more other things also in was added as an indicator of economic growth development. Sorry, it tends to conceal the lower than average condition of the deprived. Given these inefficiencies of GNP and GDP as an indicator, other indicators were also added and also considered to see the how the country is developing or not. First is Human Development Index, that is SDI. It is a summary composite measure of a country's average achievements in three basic aspects of human development, that is health, knowledge, and standard of living. Whenever they see, yes, this country we categorize will have we what categorization is made: a developed nation, developing nation, underdeveloped. It is based on these indexes also, not only the gross domestic or gross net product. So whether human development, three aspect: health, knowledge, and standard of living is seen. Then human poverty index, HPI. The human poverty index is an important socio-economic indicator used to measure the level of deprivation experienced by individual in a given population. Like whether they see how many people are below poverty line. They see whether they are getting food to eat or not. They see the that index is seen ki how, what percentage of population comes under is under poverty. That index is seen to measure the development of a nation. Gini coefficient index is a statistical measure of economic inequality in a population. The coefficient measures the dispersion of income or distribution of wealth among the members of population, whether people are getting their share equally or not. As I said, not equal means like they are getting their share, what they are working, they are getting a proper share or not, they are not facing any problem, they are getting all the facilities or not. So this is Gini coefficient index. Then gender development index, it measures the differences in male and female achievements in three basic dimensions of human development: health, education, and command over economic resources. You must have seen in the developing nation or underdeveloped nations, ladies are not treated equally, and they don't get all the facilities like health, education. You can see in India also, in many villages, many families, they don't allow girls to study. They don't, health facilities are not taken care of proper. So that gender development index measure whether both the genders are they are getting the equal share or not in health, education, and command over economic resources, whether they are in employment also, whether the both of them, male and female, both are getting employment or not. So that equality is there or not. Balance of trade is export minus import. If any nation export exceeds import, that means it is developing. They are developing, and that's why they have surplus and they are exporting. And if in any nation import is more than export, that means they are still in a developing phase. They are not able to fulfill all their requirements. Then physical quality of life index, PQLI. The physical quality of life index is a measure that combines three basic indicators of human well-being, that is literacy rate, expectancy, and infant mortality rate into a single index. It is calculated on the basis of that, what is the literacy rate, what is the life expectancy, and infant mortality, that is rate, into a single index. Then comes per capita income. What is the per capita income? That every individual is per capita is every individual's income is there. Then per capita consumption, like whether everyone is getting, as I said, equal share in goods and services or not. So that is per capita consumption. Each and every individual, it is calculated on the basis of that. You can refer to table 1.1 and 1.2, where you can see the different indicators of development, and data is given about different developed and developing nations, what changes have taken place in due course of time. Just do check those tables. Now we talked about development and growth. Any questions in that?
No, madam.
Is it clear? Slides are clear? All the slides are clear to you all?
Yes, yes.
Okay. We talked about development, we go growth, we talked about development. Now we'll talk about the characteristics of underdevelopment. Why do we categorize some nation as developed and some as underdeveloped? On what basis? There has to be some category on which the basis of which we categorize a nation as a developed or a developing or underdeveloped nation, right? The points are mass poverty. The nations where you can, like India also now, now it's a developing nation. Previously, it was also considered as underdeveloped uh, when after independence and all. Their poverty was poverty was there, and it is, we consider, we look at the level of people, poor people, what a percentage of population is poor. Even today also 20% of people in India, they come under below poverty line. So, on the basis of that, these are the characteristics of underdevelopment: low level of income and concentration of income in a few hands. You must have seen someone very rich, someone very poor. So, and level of income, some people they have, they just flaunt money, and some people they don't have two meals to eat, they don't get that even. So that is also one of the characteristics of underdeveloped nation, where income levels are low and there is unequal distribution of income. Then high levels of unemployment and underemployment. Unemployment is there, people don't get employment, and underemployment is that people are employed but they don't get the salary or wages what they have, like for one work two people are engaged, in one salary two people, that is called underemployment. Poor nutrition, health, housing, literacy and welfare status, these are also the characteristic of underdeveloped nations. Preponderance of primary sector, that is agriculture sector, and low level of industrialization, over dependence on primary sector and low level of industrialization. Lower status of women and that of a variety of social groups such as scheduled caste in India, we can say, like they are not given the equal status, they are given the lower status. So all these are the characteristics of underdeveloped nation. These characteristics of underdeveloped countries will help in generalizing some of the problems that one finds common to most of them. This will enable us to also grasp the key issues that affect the developing societies. So these are the issues on which the developing societies should work to move forward in the process of development. There are different theories given about development. In our book, it is five theories are given. First is Rostow's. He penned his classic stages of economic growth in 1960, which presented five steps through which all countries must pass to become developed. That he talked about five stages of development. First, a traditional society, as you know, basically agricultural based and very traditional ones, right? And second is preconditions to take off, drive to maturity, and age of high mass consumption. Preconditions to take off means, suppose country is agricultural based, now they want to move on to industrialization, they want in to develop industries and all. There has to be some condition. If there has to be money to invest, there has to be resources, other resources. So that is the preconditions to take off. Whenever a flight takes off, runway is there, all the preconditions are fulfilled, and then the flight takes off. Similarly, our economy to grow, there has to be some free preconditions to take off. And he talked about, Rosto talked about these conditions. Many countries, they do have, like India also, after independence, they focused on agriculture and then industrialization. They didn't have enough resources, but still they had resources and they moved on to industrialization also. They focused on industry, so the preconditions was available for them. Then take off, when they do some development activities, different activities for the purpose of development. Then drive to maturity, that drive has to be there. So to reach the maturity level, that means to get successful, that drive has to be there, that determination has to be there. And the age of high mass consumption, when really development takes place, and the mass of gets benefited by the process of development. So he talked about 5 stages of development. Second is the Lewis theory of development. During the 1950s, Arthur Lewis put forward a different theory of development. According to Lewis, underdeveloped countries are characterized by the presence of two sectors: the traditional rural sectors, which is of the nature of a subsistence economy, providing for self consumption within this sector. This sector also has a surplus of labor, and the modern urban industrial sector where productivity is higher. So he talked about two sectors, the underdeveloped countries are characterized by the presence of these two sectors, that is traditional rural sector, and the other which basically focused on agriculture for self consumption and all. And second is modern urban industrial sector. The Arthur Lewis argued that labor can be transferred from the rural to the urban sector without adversely affecting productivity in the rural sector, because there is surplus labor is there. Like for one task, 5 people are engaged. As I said, underemployment. So he talks about that surplus labor is there, and move to they can sorry they can move from rural to urban sector without they if they move also it won't affect the agriculture sector because they are underemployed. He thus envisioned a dynamic role of the industrial sector, which would lead to sustained economic development. It is agriculture's in development of agriculture sector is very important, but the development of industrial sector is equally important for the economic development. This theory, though correct in its description of situations prevailing in large parts of the developing world, is found lacking in terms of its ability to suggest measures leading to development. Like it was criticized on that it couldn't suggest measures to development, how development can take place. It, for instance, ignores the fact that unemployment is also fairly rampant in urban areas as well as rural areas. He only talked about moving the rural population to urban sector to get the employment, but he didn't talk about the unemployment in the urban areas. So his theory was criticized on basis of this. The third theory is international dependence theory. Dependence theory focused on individual nations, their roles as suppliers of raw materials, cheap labor, and markets for expensive manufactured goods from industrialized countries. The unequal exchange relationship between developed and developing countries was viewed as contributing to poor economic growth. Like in this theory, it talked about the underdeveloped nation, like the developing nation. They get even in India also, the multinational companies they establish, they get a labor at a lower cost, they get raw material at a lower cost, and they earn from these nations, and that is they take it to them. It is not that we get benefit of it, it is their economic development is taking place on cost of the developing nation or the developed ones. So and they supply their expensive goods. Like earlier it used to happen during the colonial period, the britishers used to export the raw materials from India to their country, and they used to sell their cheap goods. They then that were not expensive one also to our market, Indian market. And this is how the developed nation they find out the developing nations or underdeveloped countries, they use the exploit the resources of the developing nations, underdeveloped nations, and that's why there is unequal exchange relationship between developed and developing countries. They also note that large multinational companies are involved in the process by which wealth is transformed from developing countries to developed ones. Of course, they are taking away all the resource income to their country. They are not they don't work for the development of our nation. Any underdeveloped or developing nation, they are not working, they work for their own nations. So again, it is making it makes the condition more worse rather than improving it. Further, it is argued that institutions such as World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, have aligned with the rich countries. They also support rich countries. They are rich, and they are getting more rich by getting all the supports from the International Monetary Fund also, and from the they are exploiting underdeveloped nations also. So that disparity is there. And then Gandhian view of development is the goal of Gandhian development is to build a self-sufficient society. Each community should be self-reliant. Like Gandhi ji used to believe that every society should be they should not depend on others for their survival. Throughout his life, Gandhi sought to develop way to fight India's extreme poverty, backwardness, and socio-economic challenges as a part of his wider involvement in the Indian independence movement. Basically, this theory of development focus on self-reliance. One should not depend on others for their survival. So everything should be produced in our own country, and one should be self-reliant. Own market should be there. Whatever we produce should be marketed in our own country first, then second priority will be given to the other nations. So first one has to be self-reliant. Everything should be available at our end only. Then Marxian concept of development is the Marxist view of development. On the other hand, emphasize the role of class and class antagonism in society. In this system, vested class interest can inhibit overall development of society. The question of poverty in society is seen as a result of exploitation of the poor. Property relations in the society create and accentuate the problem of poverty and development. Since land and other productive assets are privately owned and concentrated in the hands of a few, the problem of inequalities remain unsolved. The Marxists talk about the inequality. Like they believe कि जो लोग अंडर प्रिविलेज्ड हैं, जो लोग प्रिविलेज्ड वन है, जो लोगों के पास पावर है, दे एक्सप्लॉइट द अंडर प्रिविलेज्ड पीपल, एंड दे do enjoy their life, they do get the benefits, and the poor remains poor and the rich remains rich according to their concept. So the problem of inequalities doesn't change, because as I said, there is an unequal distribution of power. Like Ambani, when we talk, then he has so much, and when we talk about a poor person, he doesn't have even 2 meals to eat. So Marxists talk about the unfair distribution of wealth and the exploitation of the poor or the unprivileged ones. Anything till now? Are you all there?
Yes, madam.
Anything, any questions till now?
No, ma'am. No.
No, ma'am.
Almost clear, ma'am.
Now we come to major issues in development. what issues comes in the process of development, that is growth versus distribution. The state has to formulate policy and design instrument to ensure that development benefits flow of those categories of people who need them most. This problem, as I said, the unequal distribution of goods and services, that has to be taken care of, that the things get distributed among people. Each and every individual in the society get their rights, they get their share in the goods and services produced in the economy. So that problem is faced in the process of development, because as Marxist said, some are very rich, some are very poor, so people are deprived. So that bridge has to be built, that bridge has to be, sorry, taken, that bridge has to be taken care of, that people get their equal share, that gap has to be bridged between the rich and the poor, and each one of them get the equal society, and accordingly plan should be formulated so that each individual of the society benefits from the process of development. Then agriculture versus industrial development. A balance between agricultural development and industrial growth will have to be maintained for genuine economic development. It is not that we focus only on agricultural sector and development will take place, and if our economy only focus on industries, they will develop. A balance has to be maintained. It is very important that all the sectors of the economy, whether it is primary, secondary or tertiary, all the sectors of the economy grow. If the agricultural sector does not grow, there may be sharp increase in the prices of food grains. Of course, if production is low in agricultural sector, the demands will be more and the supply is less, obviously price will rise. On the other hand, industrial stagnation will remain, that surplus labor from agriculture sector cannot be usefully employed. If industrial stagnation will be there, employment won't be there, market won't be there for the goods and services produced. So it is very important that there is equal growth in all the sectors taking place. So plans has to be made accordingly. Then capital versus labor intensive technologies and development. An improvement in technology calls for investment to make this change feasible. Sophisticated technology, when it uses less labor, is termed labor displacing technology. If capital intensive technology is used and less labor is used, what will happen? Anyone? Anyone?
Unemployment will get increased.
Yes. Unemployment will be there. Then income will be less. So, and on the other hand, an improvement in technology also can be made without displacing labor and less expensively. Like nowadays, we talk about artificial intelligence. Of course, in coming time, it will replace humans in many sectors. That will cause unemployment. Though technological advancement is good, but it is in some it is bad also from many perspective, from many angle. So it we have to when we talk about development, this thing has to be taken care of, which technology has to be used, so that a balance is made. Capital intensive and labor displacing technologies are often expensive also and call for large investments also. Labor intensive technologies, on the other hand, have the advantage of being able to absorb the surplus labor in a developing country. Especially, labor is cheap in the developing nations. So the cost is less when we use the labor intensive techniques than in place of capital intensive techniques. So it is very important to take care of the economy, take care which technique has to be used, and all these, whenever policy is made, whenever programs are made, these things have to be taken care of. Then centralization versus decentralization, devaluation of power is very important for development. When we talk about development, the each and every individual of the society must participate in the decision making process. Like we do have election every 5 years. People do vote for their representatives, so they are participating in the process, right? Similarly, only center level pay, like then state level elections are also held on gram levels. Elections are the panchayati raj is there. Then other levels pay, there is, that is decentralization of power from center to state, then to rural gram levels. So that is very important to make each and every person a part in the decision making process, and plan should be made accordingly only. So these things do come in the process of development. These problems do, they have to think about what plans and policies, who all to be involved. They have to take care of all these things in making the plans and policies for the nation. Then urban versus rural development. The problem of rural poverty and unemployment is the crux of the problem. Without solving it, there cannot be genuine development. The majority of people, like India, only 80% of the people resides in villages. Until unless we focus on rural development, only focusing on urban development won't help. So for the process of development, for development to take place, it is very important that rural development also given equal importance as urban development. There has to be a balance between both. Not only investment should not be only made only in urban areas or only in rural areas. Both, a balance has to be made in both. Sustained improvement in the quality of life in rural areas is likely to slacken the pace of large scale migration of villagers to cities in search of jobs. Then, respective roles of state and the market. One of the most contentious issues in economy has been the scope and extent of government intervention in the economy of the country. Government plays a very important role in the development of a nation. If a good government is there, the progress will take place. If government is not focusing on the development process, the progress will not take place. So it's very important. A good governance is very important. So that also plays a very important role in the development process. Till now, any questions?
No, madam.
Okay. Now we talk about planned development and shift in strategies in India. Development is a long-term phenomena. It doesn't happen in a day. It takes time, years. In order to achieve something in the long run, it is essential to plan, keeping in mind the goals that we wish to attain. We have already seen that there is no single path towards development. Any country will have several objectives that it may wish to achieve in a given time frame. Every country has different scenario. They accordingly they plan their development programs. Some developed nation, they have different things to deal with. Underdeveloped nations, they have to different things, poverty, unemployment, they have to different issues to deal with. So every country make plans according to their requirements. India, after independence, decided to opt for a planned course towards development and coordinate the process of planning. The Planning Commission was set up in 1950. It may be useful to view the past half a century of Indian economic story as a chronological sequence of the following phases. Like, as I said, it is very important to plan things. Even everyday planning we do make in our day to day life to attain the success, to attain our targets. Similarly, any country, according to its requirement, they plan, they do make implement programs and policy according to the requirements of their country. And India also, the Planning Commission was set up in 1950. In the first phase after the economy, which was called the preparatory phase in the planning for development from independence to mid 1950, the main focus was on agriculture only. In that phase, focus was not on industry or anything else. The main focus was on agriculture only. In the second phase, which is called Nehru Mahalobis model, from 1950 to 1960, industrialization took place in India, and heavy industries were established. Even Tata and all may established in that time only, and more focus was given on industrialization. Goods were produced in our economy, and not only goods to be used, but the capital goods also, like machines and all, were produced during this time. And it really made our country self-reliant in many aspects. The phase of pulling up agriculture in 1960s and 1970s, major focus was on agriculture. The green revolution, the white revolution, that is related to milk and all. The green revolution, like using of high quality fertilizer sheets and all, were focused on. So in 60s and 70s, the country focused upon agriculture, which is also called green revolution phase. The phase of pump priming of aggregate demand, the decade of 1980s, that was like both agriculture and industry were given equal importance in this phase in 1980s. And the phase of economic liberalization, liberalization, it was which took place in 1991, and it really gave boom to our economy. It was a very important phase in history of India. The phase of economic liberalization. We deal with more countries. We export, we import. So investment was made from the developed nation. They invested in our country. Many factories and all were established. So lots of things were done after 1991. Now we talk about what is rural development. Now we talk about what is rural area, what is development, what is growth, and now we talk about what is rural development, the concept and strategies. The increasing interest in rural development is a result of the realization that a systematic effort is necessary to create better living conditions in the rural areas where the vast majority of population of developing countries reside. This term, rural development, the focus was given on rural development because the it was realized that it is very important to take care of the condition of living condition of people in the rural areas, because majority in India also, as I said, 80% of people reside in rural areas. Similarly, In many developed and underdeveloped countries, majority of people they reside in rural areas, and that's why rural development is very important. Historically, it has been observed that industrialization and the advancement of economies in Western societies was linked to major economic changes in the rural society. What is rural development? Anyone? You can read it out. Anyone? What is rural development?
Improvement in services in rural area, their lifestyle, their income.
Yes. The overall improvement in the rural areas. When we talk about development, even for a human being, under the process, it is a development, overall development, not intellectually only. It is social, it is physical. So it's a overall development. Similarly, when we talk about countries, also, it is an integrated process, like development of all the sectors, development on all aspect, living condition, education, all the facilities, services, goods, whatever. So that is the overall development, like the social relation, like the people, how they socialize also comes under this process, under this term. So overall development is, when we talk about country also, we talk about overall development. Even like a human being, when we talk about development, it is a overall development. Rural development is a process which aims at improving the well-being and self-realization of people living outside the urbanized areas through collective process. According to Agarwal 1989, I have quoted few definitions. You can write in exams also. Rural development is a strategy designed to improve the economic and social life of rural people. Like provide economic is employment, income, and social life is what all the facilities they get, school, education, school, hospital, and all. So that is their social life, communities, development of that, parks. The United Nations defines rural development as rural development is a process of change by which the efforts of the people themselves are united, those of government authorities to improve the economic, social, and cultural conditions of communities into the life of the nation and to enable them to contribute fully to national program. Rural development is a process of bringing change among rural community from the traditional way of living to a progressive way of living. As rural areas, they generally are very traditional. They live, they have a traditional way of living. So now it actually means to change in traditional way of living to progressive way of living. It is also expressed as a movement for progress. Now we talk about scope and importance of rural development. Why, what is the scope and why it is important, rural development? Rural development is a dynamic process which is mainly concerned with the rural areas. These include agricultural growth, putting up of economic and social infrastructure, fair wages, and also housing and house sites for the landless, village planning, public health, education and functional literacy, communication, etc. It's a dynamic process. It is not only one way, it has to multifaceted, like if public health also is taken care of, education, functional literacy means people should know uh, to sign, to read and write at least, communication, etc., right? Rural development is a national necessity and has considerable importance in India because of the following reasons. Why rural development is given focused in India. The reason behind that, about three-fourths of India's population lives in rural areas. Thus, rural development is needed to develop nation as a whole. If we don't focus on rural areas and only urban areas, three-fourths population will remain untouched, right? So development will not take place. Nearly half of the country's national income is derived from agriculture, which is major occupation of rural India. Around 70% of Indian population gets employment through agriculture. These are the reasons why rural development is important in India. Whenever you get a question like this, you can write this point wise. Bulks of raw material for industries come from agricultural and rural sector. रॉ मटेरियल लाइक कपास है, ये क्या बोलते हैं उसको, जूट है. सो these are the raw materials which they get from the agriculture and rural sectors only for industries. Or other there are many other raw materials also I talked about. Increase in industrial population can be justified only in rural population's motivation and increasing the purchasing power to buy industrial goods. There has to be market. 80% of people reside in rural areas. So, who will buy the products of the uh, in the products which is produced in the industries and all? Who is going to buy? There has to be a market, and that's why it is very important to develop rural areas. Growing disparity between the urban elite and the rural poor can lead to political instability. The disparity between the two, 80% people reside there, election होगा, लोग वो disparity के कारण there will be political unrest in the country. लाइक आपने सुना होगा किसान आंदोलन और ये बहुत सारी आंदोलन होते रहते हैं इन बिटवीन. सो दिस विल affect the politics of the country also. The main objective of the rural development program is to raise the economic and social level of the rural people. This is the main objective. Why rural? What is the need and importance of rural development? We talked about so many points. We'll do some more. Rural development is a national necessity and has considerable importance in India because of the following reasons: to develop rural area as whole in terms of culture, society, economy, technology, and health; to develop living standard of rural mass; to develop rural youth, children, and women; to develop and empower human resource of rural areas in terms of their psychology, skills, knowledge, attitude, and other abilities; to provide them with opportunities. बिकॉज आपने सुना होगा कि गांव बहुत अच्छे पढ़ने में बच्चे हैं, बहुत गुड स्पोर्ट्समैन हैं, दे डोंट गेट दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी बिकॉज दे आर they are residing in remote areas. So for that it is very important to acknowledge their skills, their abilities. It's very important to develop rural areas, to develop infrastructure facilities of rural areas. कहीं रोड है, कहीं नहीं है, कहीं कुछ प्रॉब्लम है. So it's very important to develop infrastructure facilities, school, colleges. बहुत सारे गांव बच्चे 10-10 किलोमीटर जाते हैं कॉलेज अटेंड करने के लिए. To provide minimum facility to rural mass in terms of drinking water, education, transport, electricity and communication. पानी तक बहुत जगह तो पानी ड्रिंकिंग वाटर 5-5, 10-10 किलोमीटर दूर दूर से लोग लाते हैं ड्रिंकिंग वाटर. सो ये सारी चीज़ें पे फोकस करना बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है. दैट्स वाई रूरल. और ये इनइक्वालिटी इंडिया में बहुत जगह पे है, बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स है, अलग अलग जगह की अलग अलग प्रॉब्लम्स है. लाइक जो हिली टेरेन्स है वहाँ पे ट्रांसपोर्ट की प्रॉब्लम है, कहीं सूखा का प्रॉब्लम है, वाटर की प्रॉब्लम है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की प्रॉब्लम है, एजुकेशन की प्रॉब्लम है. सो दे डू हैव डिफरेंट प्रॉब्लम्स अलग अलग एरियाज के. टू डेवलप रूरल इंस्टीट्यूशंस लाइक पंचायत, कोऑपरेटिव पोस्ट, बैंकिंग एंड क्रेडिट. बहुत सारे ऐसे गांव हैं जहां अब तो हर जगह बैंक्स एंड ऑल हैं, बट बहुत जगह ऐसे जहाँ गांव है जहाँ बैंक ही नहीं है, जहाँ पे पोस्ट ऑफिस दूर दूर तक जाना पड़ता है. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि इन चीज़ों को डेवलप हो टू रेज द स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लाइफ ऑफ पीपल, टू प्रोवाइड फैसिलिटीज टू देम, to provide financial assistance to develop the artisans in rural areas, farmers and agrarian unskilled labor, small and big rural entrepreneurs to improve their economy. जो आर्टिशियंस हैं रूरल एरियाज में, बहुत अच्छे अच्छे आर्टिस्ट हैं. अब तो खैर आपने देखा होगा प्रधानमंत्री का वो बीच बीच में आता रहता है मोटिवेशनल, उसमें लोग आते हैं एंड दे टेल हाउ वो कैसे फार्मिंग कर रहे हैं, और कोई ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग कर रहा है, कोई वेस्ट से बेस्ट बना रहा है, ऐसे डिफरेंट डिफरेंट जिनको प्रधानमंत्री योजना के तहत फायदा मिल रहा है एंड दे आर प्रोमोटेड. सो ऐसी पॉलिसीज सो दैट हम वहाँ के टैलेंट्स को भी, वहाँ के लोगों को भी डेवलप कर सके, बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द population is residing in rural areas only. To develop rural industries, to the development of handicraft, small scale industries, village industries, rural craft, cottage industries, and other related economic operations in the rural sector. This will help to increase their income. This will help to increase their standard of living. To develop agriculture, animal husbandry, and other agricultural related areas. To restore uncultivated land, provide irrigation facility. गुजरात में पहले पानी नहीं था बहुत जगह पे, बट बहुत सारी ऐसी योजनाएं आई जिसके तहत अब पानी दूर दूर तक है. वो विंड लाइक इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेट होता है विंड के थ्रू. सो ऑल दोज थिंग्स थिंग्स वर देयर, रिसोर्सेज वर देयर, पर उनका यूटिलाइज नहीं हो पाता था बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ फैसिलिटीज. सो दीज फैसिलिटीज okay Sath, you can go to Gujarat and see that structure. It's very good. Lots of work has been done there और बहुत ही अच्छे स्केल पे हुआ है. So you can quote some examples like this and motivate farmers to adopt improved seed, fertilizers, packages, or package of practices of crop cultivation and soil conservation method. To develop entertainment and recreational facilities for rural mass, it is also important for them. पहले तो गांव में सिनेमा हॉल और कुछ भी नहीं होता था, अब धीरे धीरे वो फैसिलिटीज भी हैं, बिकॉज इवन दे शुड हैव अ लाइफ, they should have also get entertainment, recreational facilities, playgrounds and all सब होना चाहिए. And that's why it's very important. बहुत सारे गांव हैं जहाँ कुछ भी नहीं है. To develop leadership quality of rural area, to improve rural marketing facility. Nowadays cooperatives and all are there, so that the farmers get good price for their product. अमूल का डेयरी आपने सुना है, दी फार्मर्स पूरे विलेज के आके वहाँ पे अपना मिल्क सप्लाई करते हैं, दे गेट गुड प्राइस फॉर दैट. एंड ग्रेन्स के लिए भी मार्केट्स आर देयर, सो दैट the farmers get good price for their products. Earlier it never used to happen. They don't never used to get good price for their products. So ये सब चीजें धीरे धीरे डेवलप हो रही हैं, and that's why it's very important more development to take place in India. To minimize gap between the urban and rural in terms of facilities availed. Urban areas में ज़्यादा facilities है, rural में कम है, तो that gap has to be bridged to improve rural people participation in the development of state and nation as a whole. To improve scopes of employment for rural mass, for the sustainable development of rural areas, to eliminate rural poverty, to solve the problem faced by the rural mass for their development. So all these things are there. Why rural development is India is important. Now, when we talk about process, it is not that only policy बना दी, programs बना दिया and उससे काम हो जाएगा. there are many problems also in rural areas जो hindrance होता है in the development process. Okay. Now we can. I'll proceed further. First, we'll discuss what problems do the people like policymakers or the government face in implementing policies and programs in rural areas. What are the problems in the process of development in rural areas? Can we have your viewpoints?
Participation of rural people in government schemes, illiteracy, uh, after that, trust in government schemes are the major problems.
Yes. Anyone else?
Relatively isolation of the place,
Yes.
but I think that is more pronounced in travel policies.
Yes, but of course, many villages are very isolated till date.
Yes.
Roads, even yesterday I talked about Himachal Pradesh. There are villages with 20 people, and the roads and all are not there. I don't know how do they manage. They manage like getting down through hill terrains only. So that's why that is one of the reason. Of course, the many villages are isolated.
Lack of education.
Yes, lack of education. Anything else? Any more points to add?
Economic status.
Yes, people are, majority of them are poor. Like 50% of population in village, they are poor.
Cheap politics,
Yes.
Caste-based issues also hampering their development.
Pardon, you're not audible, Ankita.
Caste-based issues are also
Yes.
dominant there.
Yes, very much. People do vote in elections on caste basis. That is there very much in many like states. That is very. Anyone else? Okay. A few slides are left. I'll move on to that. I tried making it point wise so that it helps you in exam. Otherwise, please do read all the policies and all. Sorry. Okay. What are the problems we talked about? Good. You all participated. Very nice. And answers were also right. Now we'll just look at it sequence wise, right? Problems in rural development is first is people related. As yesterday we talked, like rural people, they have very traditional way of thinking. They are very attached to their emotions, the feelings. They don't want to do something new. वो दैट व्हाट कह सकते हैं जो एक नई नई चीजें के लिए कुछ वो एक्सेप्टेंस इज नॉट देयर सो दैट इज नॉट देयर विद देम दैट इज वन थिंग ट्रेडिशनल वे ऑफ थिंकिंग अगर कुछ नया आएगा लाइक कोरोना व्हेन कोरोना वाज देयर आया था बहुत सारे ऐसे विलेजेस थे जो पीपल ने लोगों ने वैक्सीनेशन नहीं लिया कि खराब होता है ऐसा होता है वैसा होता है तो दे हैव देयर ओन वे ऑफ थिंकिंग वो एक प्रॉब्लम होता है उसके कारण बहुत सारे डेथ्स हुए लोगों ने नहीं लिया वैक्सीन तो एक तरह से वो हिंड्रेंस हुआ प्रोसेस ऑफ डेवलपमेंट, उनके लिविंग कंडीशन में इम्प्रूवमेंट में, उनके मेडिकल फैसिलिटीज वाज अवेलेबल बट दे डिडंट टेक, उनके थॉट प्रोसेस के कारण। पुअर अंडरस्टैंडिंग, लैक ऑफ अवेयरनेस। मैं जैसे मैंने कहा था आई वर्क विथ ऑटिस्टिक है बच्चे, जो भी डिसेबल पीपल लोगों के साथ में काम करती हूँ, आई वर्क विद देम। सो अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज नॉट देयर। आज आप गांव में जाके कहोगे कि आपका बच्चा ऑटिस्टिक है तो हाँ ऐसे ही बोल रहा है, ऐसा होता है क्या, या कोई डिप्रेशन में है, एक मैं जनरल एक एग्जांपल बोल रही हूँ। तो दे डोंट हैव दैट अवेयरनेस। अंडरस्टैंडिंग तब होगी जब अवेयरनेस होगा। अवेयरनेस नहीं है लोगों में, क्या पॉलिसी चल रही है, क्या चल रहा है, किसी ने शॉल दे दिया तो दे वोट फॉर द पीपल, उस बंदे के लिए वोट कर देते हैं। दे डोंट अंडरस्टैंड कि इसका इम्प्लीकेशन क्या होगा। सो दैट इज देयर। लो लेवल ऑफ एजुकेशन टू अंडरस्टैंड डेवलपमेंटल एफर्ट्स एंड न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी। अब आज आप किसी गांव में जाके बात करोगे ये एआई के बारे में, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, विल दे अंडरस्टैंड? नो, दे विल नॉट अंडरस्टैंड। ये क्या होता है, ये तो कुछ भी नहीं होता, इससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है, हम खुद ही कर लेंगे, वैसा वैसी वाली चीजें हैं। सो दैट बिकॉज ऑफ लो लेवल ऑफ एजुकेशन, दे आर नॉट दैट एजुकेटेड, इसके कारण वो चीजों को समझ नहीं पाते हैं व्हाट डेवलपमेंट इज टेकिंग प्लेस। मिसाइल बना दिया तो क्या होगा, चांद पे चला गया तो क्या हो गया, उससे हमें क्या फर्क पड़ता है, व्हाट वी आर गेटिंग, ऐसी वाली सोच है। डिप्राइव साइकोलॉजी एंड साइंटिफिक ओरिएंटेशन, as I said, they don't understand, they don't have that साइकोलॉजी, माइंड बैंड नहीं है, वो ओरिएंटेशन नहीं है टुवर्ड्स साइंटिफिक चीजों के जो घट रहा है, हो रही है। लैक ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस है, बिकॉज दे आर लिविंग, दे लिव इन अ वेरी क्लोज सोसाइटी, 10 घर का, 20 घर, 100 घर, मतलब दे आर लिमिटेड टू दैट एरिया। तो दैट कॉन्फिडेंस इज नॉट देयर इन देम टू, ऑफ कोर्स ऐसा नहीं कि सबके साथ है, बट many of them to deal with the world outside. Poor awareness, as I talked about, low level of education, existence of unfelt needs, जरूरत ही नहीं समझ आए, लाइक इसकी क्या जरूरत है, दे हैव दैट थॉट प्रोसेस ही नहीं है। खाना पहनने को मिल गया, खाने को मिल गया, उसके अलावा भी नीड होती है, दे डोंट अंडरस्टैंड दैट। पर्सनल ईगो, हेल्थ, स्टोरेज फैसिलिटी एक्सेट्रा, ईगो प्रॉब्लम इज देयर, मैं कैसे। एग्रीकल्चर रिलेटेड प्रॉब्लम्स है, फिर लैक ऑफ एक्सपेक्टेड अवेयरनेस, नॉलेज, स्किल एंड एटीट्यूड, क्या होगा नहीं होगा, ये सब अगर हम पढ़ाई करेंगे तभी हमें किसी चीज के बारे में नॉलेज होगा, वो स्किल्स नहीं है। एंड एटीट्यूड टू लर्न समथिंग न्यू इज ऑल्सो नॉट देयर। अनअवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ इनपुट्स, उनके पास एग्रीकल्चर में इनपुट्स लाइक फर्टिलाइजर्स एंड ऑल, बहुत सारे बहुत पुअर फार्मर्स हैं, उनके पास दैट फैसिलिटी इज नॉट देयर, दे डोंट गेट दैट इन लाइक रॉ मटेरियल्स एंड ऑल, वो चीज़ उन्हें नहीं मिल पाती हैं, उन्हें सीड्स, फर्टिलाइजर्स, ये सारी चीज़ें नहीं मिल पाती हैं उस लेवल पे जो उनको चाहिए, बिकॉज ऑफ पुअर भी कह सकते हैं, बिकॉज ऑफ दे डोंट नो वेयर टू अप्रोच, बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, बिकॉज दैट दैट ऑल्सो कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट। पुअर मार्केटिंग फैसिलिटी, दे डोंट गेट प्राइस फॉर देयर प्रोडक्ट, एंड दैट्स वाई वो किसान आंदोलन और क्या क्या हो रहा है। बीच में बहुत सारे लाइक लोग होते हैं, उसके कारण दे डोंट गेट दैट प्रॉपर, अदरवाइज इफ दे अप्रोच टू द राइट पर्सन, राइट प्लेस, दे विल गेट, बट उन्हें बहुत लोग मिसगाइड कर देते हैं। इनसफिशिएंट एक्सटेंशन स्टाफ एंड सर्विसेज, मल्टी डायमेंशनल टास्क टू एक्सटेंशन पर्सनल, स्मॉल साइज ऑफ लैंड होल्डिंग, छोटे छोटे लोगों के खेत हैं, उसमें कितना ही क्या कर लेंगे, फॉर सेल्फ यूज के लिए ही प्रोड्यूस कर लें उतना ही काफी है। डिवीजन ऑफ लैंड, पहले जमींदारी सिस्टम था, देन लैंड डिवीजन हुआ, फिर अब बच्चों के बीच डिवीजन हुआ, एक फादर का था, वो उसके 4 बच्चे हैं, तो लोगों के बच्चे भी बहुत सारे हैं गाँवों में, दे डोंट फॉलो 2 बच्चे और 1 बच्चे का थिंग, दे डोंट फॉलो दैट। सो डिवीजन हुआ तो साइज ऑफ लैंड होल्डिंग भी छोटी हो गई, तो प्रोडक्शन भी लो हो गया। अनविलिंगनेस टू वर्क एंड स्टे इन रूरल एरियाज, लोग बहुत, जो लोग हैं, अच्छे हैं, जो समझते हैं, जो पढ़े लिखे हैं, दे डोंट वांट टू वर्क इन रूरल एरियाज एंड हेल्प देम. Then infrastructure related problems, poor infrastructure facilities like water, electricity, transport, educational institution and communication is there. Economic problem, unfavorable economic condition to adopt high cost technology. They don't have money. आप उनसे कहेंगे कि ये वाला ट्रैक्टर ले लो, this is very good, इससे बहुत अच्छा, तो they should have money. They don't have money. How they'll adopt new technologies? How ये वाले organic farming करो, ये तो उसके cost is very high. How they will do that? High cost of inputs. अनप्रिविलेज रूरल इंडस्ट्रीज, रूरल इंडस्ट्रीज बहुत जगह तो बंद हो गई, बहुत सारी इंडस्ट्रीज हैं, गन्ना इंडस्ट्रीज एंड और जो उनका मेजर सोर्स ऑफ इनकम हुआ करता था, तो वो एक प्रॉब्लम है. सोशल एंड कल्चरल प्रॉब्लम्स, कल्चरल नॉर्म्स एंड ट्रेडिशंस, लोग उसमें घुसे रहते हैं, जो फॉलो हो रहा है सालों से, दे डोंट वांट टू चेंज. तो उन्हीं चीज़ों में वही कास्ट सिस्टम, रिलीजन, लैंग्वेज, लोग शादी, चाइल्ड मैरिज, बहुत सारी चीज़ों के बीच में फंसे हुए हैं वो. लीडरशिप रिलेटेड प्रॉब्लम, लीडरशिप अमंग द हैंड्स ऑफ इनएक्टिव एंड इनकॉम्पिटेंट पीपल. लोग अपने लाइक एज वी टॉक कास्ट सिस्टम के हिसाब से वोट कर देते हैं, दो पर्सन इज नॉट केपेबल, इट इज ही और शी इज इनकॉम्पिटेंट, बट पीपल डू वोट and that creates problem. Then malified interest of leaders, लोग अपने ही उसमें खाते पकाते रहते हैं. biased political will, किसी इस स्टेट में मेरी सरकार है, I'll give more to that state, उसमें नहीं है, तो that biasness is there. administrative problems, जो गाँव के लेवल पे होती है, नो वन इज टू टेक केयर ऑफ. आई डू वर्क फॉर जनरेशन इंडिया फाउंडेशन है एक, उसमें बहुत कुछ दिखता है विच इज नॉट एक्चुअली ऑन ग्राउंड, बट पेपर पे इट इज देयर. अर्लियर मेजोरिटी लाइक ओके sorry, earlier majority of the programs were planned based on top to bottom approach and were target oriented. Political interference, lack of motivation and interest, yeah, all this comes under administrative problem. People are not motivated. बहुत कम कम पैसे में लोग को जॉब भी मिला हुआ है, दे आर नॉट मोटिवेटेड टू किसी काम को करने के लिए, दे आर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड. अनविलिंगनेस टू वर्क इन रूरल एरियाज, बहुत सारे डॉक्टर्स हैं और इंजीनियर्स हैं, दे डोंट वांट टू गो टू रूरल एरियाज. दे लाइक मैंने देखा है बहुत लॉयर्स, वो जज के एग्जाम एंड ऑल में नहीं जाना चाहते हैं, दे वांट टू वर्क इन कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर. व्हाई? बिकॉज दे विल हैव टू लिव इन रूरल एरियाज. इम्प्रॉपर यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ बजट, बजट इज नॉट यूटिलाइज प्रॉपरली, वो लोगों के पॉकेट में चला जाता है. Okay, right. So this was all the problems which are faced in the rural development process. And now जो भी rural development programs है, one liner में I have given, this is not in your book, but I tried कि मैं सारे programs जो भी प्री इंडिपेंडेंस पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस हुए हैं फॉर रूरल डेवलपमेंट आपको मैं शेयर कर सकूं. सो आई हैव जस्ट रिटन वन लाइनर में, आप किसी भी प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में इन डिटेल इफ यू वांट टू रीड आउट प्लीज गो थ्रू. आपके बुक्स में है, पूरे नहीं है, थोड़े हैं, बट ये बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, आप पढ़ सकते हैं, देख सकते हैं. दोज हु आर इंटरेस्टेड कि व्हाट ऑल डेवलपमेंट टुक प्लेस, व्हाट ऑल पॉलिसी एंड प्रोग्राम्स वेर मेड. लाइक जीएमएफसी ग्रो मोर फूड कैंपेन हुआ था 1948 1950. जीएमपीसी जापानीज मेथड ऑफ पैडी कल्टीवेशन के लिए यूज हुआ था. देन कम्युनिटी डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम इज द फर्स्ट प्रोग्राम which was introduced, that is CDP, community development program, जिसमें full development, full utilization of human resource and other resources of villages were taken care of, जिसमें proper utilization of resources ताकि development हो सके, उस पर फोकस किया गया था. कम्युनिटी लेवल पे, देन नेशनल एक्सटेंशन सर्विस, इंटेंसिव एग्रीकल्चर डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्रोग्राम, डिस्ट्रिक्ट वर्क फोकस्ड, उसमें हर अलग अलग डिस्ट्रिक्ट के हिसाब से प्रोग्राम, ऐसे अलग अलग सब बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम्स हैं, दे आर टू मेनी, यू कैन रीड इट आउट, अपने बुक में भी आप जाके गो थ्रू द प्रोग्राम्स एंड पॉलिसीज व्हाट वे आर फॉर्मुलेटेड, आप चेक करिए। मल्टीपल क्रॉप प्रोग्राम कैसे उगा सकते हैं, ड्रॉट प्रोन एरिया जो है वहाँ पे क्या कर सकते हैं, जहाँ पे बार बार ड्रॉट प्रोन एरियाज जो हैं, व्हाट टू डू दैट, वहाँ की डेवलपमेंट कैसे हो, ड्राई फार्मिंग एरिया प्रोग्राम, ऐसे बहुत सारे कृषि विज्ञान केंद्र, ट्राइबल डेवलपमेंट ब्लॉक है एक, जो विच फोकस ऑन ट्राइबल पीपल डेवलपमेंट, सो there are many programs, जस्ट आई हैव जस्ट रिटन वन लाइन में वॉट एवर प्रोग्राम्स और किस ईयर में हुआ था वो, यू कैन गो थ्रू दैट, आपके बुक में जो है चेक फॉर दैट, अगर आपको नहीं भी कुछ, अगर आप इसमें से भी कुछ एग्जाम में लिखेंगे तो you'll get marks for all. And as I was talking about decentralization of power, इसलिए पंचायत राज सिस्टम आया, the first organized effort to solve the problem of rural India was made through the community. ये पंचायत राज हुआ था, मैं डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम इन द ईयर 1952 and national extension service in 1953. On the completion of first 5 years of the CDP जब हुआ था, the planning commission appointed a high ranking study committee headed by Balwant Rai Mehta, chief minister of Gujarat. This team pointed out both positive results and inadequacies in the implementation of the program. This committee recommended Panchayati Raj. The study team made a significant recommendation with implementation of a program. According to it, there should be effective administrative decentralization for the implementation of the program. गवर्नमेंट हर जगह जाके तो नहीं देख सकती, तो स्मॉल स्मॉल लेवल पे सब करना होता है, स्टेट लेवल पे पंचायत राज वो, दैट्स वाई पंचायती राज वो सिस्टम वाज फॉर्म, ताकि विलेज के विकास को फोकस किया जा सके, द पावर को, उनको डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन ऑफ पावर इसी तरह से किया गया था। द डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन वाज टू बी प्लेस अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ सिलेक्टेड एंड इंटीग्रेटेड लोकल सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट। अब तो हर स्टेट में आपने सुना होगा इलेक्शंस होते हैं, ब्लॉक लेवल्स पे पंचायत राज के इलेक्शन होते हैं, पीपल डू वोट, और उसमें लोग इलेक्ट होके आते हैं एंड दे वर्क फॉर 3 years. Level and then to district level. So this democratic decentralized system was named as Panchayat, which was formed in 1953. What is Panch? An assembly of elders who settle the dispute within the limit of caste and customs. Panchayat, an assembly of elected person of the village. Village bodies were the lines of contact with higher authorities on matters affecting to the village was seen. Democracy, इसमें जो words use हुए हैं, the word democracy derived from Greek language demok means the people and cracy means rule of. It is leading of the people, by the people and for the people. Decentralization, devolution of central authority among local units close to area served. As it is very important, अगर आप नेशनल लेवल पे किसी से पूछोगे, किसी दूसरे स्टेट के किसी एक लीडर से, व्हेन यू विल आस्क कि उस स्टेट का क्या प्रॉब्लम है, उस स्टेट के भी लीडर से इफ यू विल आस्क कि अच्छा उस जगह का क्या प्रॉब्लम है, तो वो उस लेवल का नहीं बता पाएगा। जो लोग लोकल होते हैं और उस लेवल पे काम करते हैं, वो बता पाएंगे कि हाँ हमें क्या प्रॉब्लम है, हमारे एरिया में क्या प्रॉब्लम है। एंड उस लोकल मेंबर्स में से जो पंचायती राज का इलेक्शन होता है, लोग इलेक्ट करते हैं एंड they work for the village. Democratic decentralization means where authority develops by the process on people's institution and act as local self-government. And the specific objective for forming it was assistance to the economically weaker section of the community, cohesion and cooperative self-help in the community, डेवलपमेंट ऑफ कोऑपरेटिव इंस्टीट्यूशंस, जो बने हैं कोऑपरेटिव इंस्टीट्यूशन, जैसे मैंने कहा जहाँ पे राइस प्रोड्यूस किया सेल होता है, जहाँ पे आलू है, प्याज है, सबका प्रॉपर प्राइस मिले, मिल्क प्रोडक्ट सेल करते हैं, तो वैसे वैसे बहुत सारे कोऑपरेटिव बने हुए हैं. इवन अमूल इज अ कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी. Development of local resources, including the utilization of manpower, production in agriculture as the highest priority in planning, progressive dispersal of authority, and initiative both vertically and horizontally with special emphasis on the role of voluntary organization. NGOs and all आते हैं and they also work in the rural community. आपने सुना होगा जिम फ्रेम जी फाउंडेशन है, जो वर्क करते हैं फॉर द एजुकेशन, चिल्ड्रन के एजुकेशन के लिए, गांव-गांव जो बिल्कुल रिमोट एरियाज हैं वहाँ जा जा के काम करते हैं. तो there are many NGOs, they are working in this direction. प्रमोशन ऑफ रूरल इंडस्ट्रीज, उनको प्रमोट करने के लिए. अंडरस्टैंडिंग एंड हार्मोनी बिटवीन द पीपल्स रिप्रेजेंटेटिव एंड पीपल्स सर्वेंट्स थ्रू comprehensive training, education and a clear demarcation of duties. People representative, जो local people representative होंगे, people servant, दो ऑफिसर्स हैं जो लोग गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट्स हैं, उन लोग के बीच में एक हार्मनी बनाने के लिए वो अपनी प्रॉब्लम्स उन तक पहुंचाते हैं. दे डू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम्स. इसके लिए एक प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग, एजुकेशन एंड अ क्लियर डिमार्केशन कि आपके काम क्या है और आपका काम क्या है शुड बी देयर. उसके लिए पंचायती राज वाज फॉर्म. सो दिस इज हाउ द decentralization of power was done. This is all from my side. Rest you read from your books. अपने बुक्स को जरूर पढ़िए. इग्नू के स्टडी मटेरियल इज वेरी गुड. उसमें बहुत कुछ बहुत डिटेल में दिया हुआ है एंड वेरी इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड. We can't cover all the topics, all programs and policy into our session. Anything from your side? Any doubts?
Ma'am, is it
Uh,
possible to share this PPT with us?
Recording will be shared with you. You can see that.
Okay.
Or I can share the PPT also.
That will be really great help, ma'am.
In the group, I'll share it with you.
मैम जैसा आपने बोला कि आई थिंक आप डिसेबल लोगों के साथ भी मतलब वर्क है आपका,
हाँ.
तो उनके क्या चैलेंजेस रहते हैं और हम लोग उनके साथ कैसे कोऑपरेट करते हैं?
डिसेबल लोगों के बहुत सारे डिसेबिलिटी डिपेंड करता है व्हाट टाइप ऑफ डिसेबिलिटी है ना. एक तो मेंटली डिसेबल्ड पीपल हैं, कुछ फिजिकली डिसेबल्ड पीपल हैं. तो आप किसके बारे में जानना चाहते हो?
मतलब इन जनरल, जस्ट आउट ऑफ मतलब माय क्यूरियोसिटी, इन जनरल ओनली.
इन जनरल दे नीड सपोर्ट फ्रॉम योर साइड. अगर कोई मेंटली डिसेबल्ड है, कोई ऑटिस्टिक बच्चा है या कोई एडीएचडी है या कोई मेंटली रिटार्डेड बच्चा है, तो या बड़ा है जो भी, तो उसको एक सपोर्ट चाहिए होता है, उसको हेल्प चाहिए होता है टू प्रोग्रेस इन और हर कैपेसिटी. आपके या मेरे जैसे वो फंक्शन नहीं कर सकता है, उसकी जो कैपेसिटी है तो उसमें हम उसको सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, हेल्प कर सकते हैं, फैमिली को हेल्प कर सकते हैं. इफ यू कैन डू मच, अगर किसी का बच्चा लाइक यू आपके सोसाइटी में है, आप उसको एक दिन का 2 घंटे का ही उसकी मम्मी को ब्रेक दे देते हैं, दैट इज अ ग्रेट सपोर्ट फ्रॉम योर साइड. तो बस यही कर सकते हैं. या जो फिजिकली डिसेबल्ड लोग हैं उनको मोटिवेशन लेवल पे काम कर सकते हैं. अदरवाइज वो क्या, अपने सेल्फ वर्थ को वो आप बहुत डिमोटिवेट हो जाते हैं, डिप्रेशन में चले जाते हैं. कभी कोई बहुत अच्छा लाइक सपोज कोई बहुत अच्छा स्विमर है और उसका हाथ ही कट गए, तो वो किस स्टेज में, किस लेवल पे उसका डिप्रेशन हो सकता है. यू कैन इमेजिन दैट. सो यू कैन हेल्प, उसके मोटिवेशन लेवल को बढ़ाओ, उसको एनकरेज कर सकते हैं, उसको दूसरे मतलब दूसरे चीज में जिसमें वो अच्छा है कैसे ग्रो कर सकता है उसमें हेल्प कर सकते हैं. सो दिस इज हाउ वी कैन हेल्प. एनीथिंग एल्स? Any question from your side? कुछ लोग तो बोल ही नहीं रहे हैं. I think they are not present.
No question, madam. One
Okay.
suggestion: you have to take a break after 1 hour, madam. It is it is too heavy to take 2 hour lecture.
Yeah, I also thought of that. Yesterday we took a break. Today we didn't take break. Sure, we'll tomorrow we'll take a break after 1 hour.
Yes, as I am also lecture, I know.
नहीं नहीं. I will even I am speaking continue. So we'll take a break after 1 hour. Don't worry. Tomorrow we'll do that.